Joining us now is Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. Governor, thanks for joining the John Fredericks Show, Common Sense for the Commonwealth. You're on the Straight Talk Express, where the undisputed conservative voice of Virginia.
Well, hey, John, thanks for having me back on, and it's always good to be with you and talk to your ever-growing listening base.
Governor, I talked to Robert Gibbs, one of President Obama's key re-election strategists and his former national press secretary. He said that the presidency will come down to whoever wins Virginia. How do you see the presidential race shaping up now in the Commonwealth?
Well, I think both President Obama and Governor Romney have both agreed that Virginia is critical to their chances of winning. I'd say the momentum is clearly on the Romney side, and I just look at the polls. 5 months ago, President Obama was up by 8, commanding lead. Today, dead heat. But the momentum's clearly on the Republican side. Even Senator Warner said that a couple days ago, Senator Mark Warner, leading Democrat,
right,
that he didn't see the energy, the enthusiasm, the signs that he did 4 years ago. And here's why. Listen, Bill Clinton gave a great speech last night. President Obama's going to give a great speech tonight. But speeches don't create jobs. And at the end of the day, it's about results, not rhetoric. And you look at this week, while all the great speeches are happening here in Charlotte, on Tuesday, it was announced that we had, Monday, the highest gas prices on a Labor Day in American history. Tuesday, the largest debt in American history. And then after the president's speech tonight, we'll get up in the morning, and the Labor Department will come out with their jobs numbers that will show that for every month of the Obama presidency, 43 months in a row, we're over 8% unemployment. The president is just not getting it done. His policies have failed. And he's claiming he didn't have enough time. He needs 4 more years. Well, that's just nonsense. And I think if he was a better leader with better policies, we'd have better results.
I don't think there's any doubt. Now, Governor, former President Clinton said in his speech, speaking of speeches, said in his speech on Wednesday night that the GOP vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan and President Obama have essentially the same $716 billion plan to save Medicare. But then Clinton said that under the Ryan plan, that Medicare would be insolvent in a shorter period of time. What is the real difference, Governor, between these two plans?
Yeah, I think that's really nonsense. The president knows a little bit better than that. Everybody agrees on this number of 12 years. That's when, under the current system, that the Medicare Trust Fund is going to go bankrupt. I mean, we're in deep trouble right now. What President Obama has done is taken $716 million out of Medicare and put it into a new entitlement of Obamacare, a very different system that's also going to, frankly, bust the budgets of every state in America, especially Virginia. What Paul Ryan did is to take that money and put it into the trust fund for some future expenditures and allow money to be spent a different way. And so I say it's not accurate to say that they have the same plans, and the president honestly has done very, very little to do what everybody in America knows needs to be done, and that is you cannot balance the budget and get us out of debt if you don't start to rein in entitlements. It's a tough love message, John, but people have to know the truth, and the truth is we're fast going the way of Greece with our spending and our debt and our deficits, over $1 trillion a year in new deficits under this president. And unless we have the guts and the courage to rein in spending on all these entitlements, including Medicaid and Medicare and others, then we're never going to get out of this hole. Paul Ryan's got a plan. It's bold, it's tough, it's honest. The president's got no plan. All you heard at the convention last night, more investment, more spending, and frankly, more taxes on the rich. That's not a plan to get us out of this.
The Democrats are now scrambling 2 days after the fact to still explain how and why they took God out of their platform, which created a spectacle of a firestorm Tuesday night on the floor of the Bobcat Center. What's the deal?
Well, John, I was chairman of the Republican Platform Committee, and I know how these things work.
Right.
And you have a concerted effort over a couple of months to create a good working draft. Then your delegates vote. And these things are carefully considered. So for the Democrats to make the conscious decision at their Platform Committee to remove or essentially deny that our talents and our liberties come from God and that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel shows an incredible fundamental lurch to the left and becoming more secular and less supportive of the nation of Israel. I mean, we were unequivocal in our support for Israel in the platform. It's very clear,
yes,
as well as realizing that both our rights and our talents come from the Creator. I mean, Jefferson acknowledged that in the Declaration of Independence, and yet on a voice vote on the floor of the convention hall last night, it appeared to me that actually more people wanted to reject putting God and Jerusalem back in the platform. It's a shocking development and shows how absolutely liberal this group of delegates is, but it reflects the president. He's the most liberal president in American history, and that's why his policies have failed. And, at least they got it right now, putting it back in, but they've got a lot of explaining to do about how it got to this point when allegedly the president reviewed the platform in advance and signed off on the first version.
Right. You would agree it's a no-win because either he went over the platform and was okay with it, or he didn't bother to read it. Each of them are bad, right?
It's a horrible situation to amend a platform on a floor and call attention to that. And then, of course, the chairman had a call for 3 votes, claiming he couldn't tell who it was. I tell you, the no's were louder than the yeses to me, which is really shocking. If they were trying to appeal to the independent voter and get them on board, and the overwhelming of people of faith in America see that, where half of the Democrat delegates or more actually reject the inclusion of God in their platform, I think they probably will say, I'm not sure that this is part of the team that I want to be a part of. So frankly, from a political perspective, it's certainly good for the Republicans, but obviously very disappointing to see how far left the Democrats have gone. This is not the party of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, despite his rhetoric last night, and he's a good team player, he certainly ratified why he had a record to run on in 1996, which he did. Very different than this president. This president has a lousy record to run on, but still can give a great speech. But it's not the party of JFK anymore, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you." President Obama's speech is going to be just the opposite. He's going to say, here's all the things your country can do for you with more taxes, spending, regulation, benefits, entitlements. That's a very different message.
And it also seems that many in the Democratic Party today are more comfortable in a completely secular environment.
It is, and that's, listen, we are a tolerant society. Mr. Jefferson himself, the second governor of Virginia, wrote the First Amendment and the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, which clearly acknowledges the fact that we don't compel anyone to adhere to any particular religious doctrine. That is freedom. We have freedom of religion. It's one of the great hallmarks of the United States of America. But no one can also deny that from our earliest days, it has been generally a Judeo-Christian country. That's what our legal principles have been founded on from the old English law, common law. And so to completely remove reference to God as the source of our talents, is really almost mind-boggling that the Democratic Party has gotten so secular and so politically correct that they have to have a vote and on the floor to determine whether God has a role in American life. It's just mind-boggling.
Oh, it's sad. And as you mentioned, I got the same response to that. They were supposed to get a 2/3 majority to put it back. There was no way that they had a 2/3 to put God back in. The high end, it was split, and it certainly seemed that there were a preponderance of no's. Now, if I could get myopic for a second, Governor, President Obama has been virtually silent on the $1 trillion of sequestration cuts that are now coming down the pike in the Department of Defense. And everyone knows if this actually happens that it is going to devastate the economy of Virginia. And then there's also defense issues that go with this. Why no leadership on this particular issue so fundamental to us by President Obama?
Well, that's the question really for the whole Obama presidency, is why when helping our military when we're fighting a two-front war and getting American people out of debt and back to work, when that was the key issues facing the country, why is he spending all his time and effort on creating new entitlements, expanding Obamacare, and focusing on social issues. I mean, that's really defined the last 4 years of the Obama presidency. And I think it's because he's just a very liberal, ideological president. And so you're exactly right. $487 billion cut in the current budget, and a plan for another 500 or so billion to be cut over the next 10 years in defense spending. Even his own Secretary of Defense said that would dramatically impair the ability of the military to do its mission. Secretary Gates, the predecessor, said it would be devastating to the military. And the president really has been an absolute bystander. The Congress failed with the super committee to get that deal done. The House of Representatives, though, followed up in May and passed a bill that changed the way these cuts go into place. Still cuts to defense, but not nearly as devastating. The president's been absolutely on the sidelines, won't lead, won't have the guts to be honest with the people about cutting entitlement and other social spending. And so here we are. In 2 months, a couple 100,000 Virginians are going to get notices from their employers under federal law that say they may not have a job in January. And this president won't address it. I've been very vocal. It's going to create the potential job loss of about 210,000 in Virginia over the next decade, and imperil the defense. We've got 350,000 Virginians that are in the U.S. military. I want to see those men and women in uniform supported, and this president simply won't do it.
Governor, we're almost out of time. One final question. Only 2 incumbent presidents have been denied a second term in modern history. What, in your view, does the Romney-Ryan have to do in order to win on November 6th?
Well, President Reagan did it, as you remember, with Jimmy Carter, and he asked a simple question: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? It's the same question that Romney and Ryan are asking now. And, of course, you had I'm sure Bill Clinton had to hold his nose saying this last night, but he said, of course we're better off, and he went through a list. But, that is strongly disagreed with in every public opinion poll. Anywhere from 52 to 70% of Americans say we're on the wrong track, and they don't think they're better off today than they were 4 years ago. So people are not buying that. They feel it in their gut. They see the debt. They see the joblessness. They see the lousy energy plan. They see the doubling of gas prices, and they say, you know what, we're not better off. And I think that's clearly the closing argument of Romney and Ryan, that we're not better off. And further, here's our plan to get the middle class back to work and renew the American dream. That's the whole message over these next 60 days. And I really do believe that independent voter in the quiet of the booth is going to say, look, I like the president. I bought his positive message back in 2008. He ran a great campaign. It's not working. I'm going to give Romney a chance.
We want to thank you for joining us today, Governor. Thank you so much.
Great to be on the John Fredericks Show. Keep up the great work, John. Thank you.
All right, sir.